Hello and welcome to the Creatives in Focus podcast, the podcast where we share real conversations with creatives and founders who are passionate about impact and change. I am Victoria Bola Okerinde, your host. On this podcast, we discuss the journey to excellence and creating for impact. This is episode 26. Wow, amazing. And this episode actually marks 1 year of Creatives in Focus, and it has been such an amazing experience. I'm so overjoyed that we are here at 1 year. I mean, I have spoken to so many incredible individuals, creatives, entrepreneurs, and more. And it's so reassuring and just lovely to know that they've gone on to do some amazing things. I heard from Danola of Luton Lights, and they're now a charity and doing some awesome stuff right now. And some other people we've spoken to have gone on to expand their businesses and launch podcasts and just thrive. And it's just really amazing. And even hearing from you, the audience, actually hearing your feedback on how you've been inspired to actually come out of your comfort zone and actually thrive and just do some really cool things. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity, to have this platform to inspire people and to use my voice and to learn from the amazing people that are invited on this show. So thank you once again. I have not done a celebration for 1 year, but I'm sure something cool will be coming up very soon. Maybe not in 2020, perhaps in 2021. And bringing me to another topic which is very close to my heart. So last week on the 20th of October, there were killings at Lekki in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'd just like to sort of use my voice, my platform to just share my condolences on to the families and the people who have suffered loss and trauma. And I know, what has happened is really shaken Nigerians and also shaken Africa and shaking, in this time. My heart goes out to everyone, and it's my hope that, for the rest of 2020, we will have peace, we will have justice, and just reaching out to everyone, in this hard time. I know it's been very difficult. It's just one thing after the other, but please do take care of yourself. And this brings me to this week's conversation that I'll be sharing with you. I had the pleasure to speak to Melissa Legarda. She is such an amazing individual. She's a British-Filipina entrepreneur who founded Virginutty. Virginutty is a sustainable coconut-based skincare brand, and their collection is stylish. It is sustainable. Like I said, it is multi-purpose, and another amazing point is that it's 100% natural. The aim of Virginutty is to empower the minority, and they also hope to be part of change overall. I've been following Virginutty for a few years now, and amazing. And this interview was so insightful. I know from this interview, you will hear the depth of knowledge and experience that Melissa has gathered over the years. I personally learned a lot. I must apologize for any rustling sounds that you will hear during this interview. This interview is recorded remotely, but honestly, I'm sure you will gain so many golden nuggets from it. Like I said, Melissa has so much insight, and this is an interview that you definitely would like to listen all the way through. So what did we speak about on this episode? On this episode, Melissa shares some amazing advice on growing a sustainable and ethical brand, building a product-based brand, empowerment through business, thriving in a pandemic, and the power of brand storytelling. I just want to jump straight into it now. Introducing Melissa Legarda. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on the Creatives in Focus podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you. I've actually been following you and your business page for a few years now,
Oh,
or when you just
amazing.
launched, yeah. And yeah, and I think it's so amazing to speak to you, especially during this time of the pandemic. Speak to you about how businesses are doing and growing and thriving in this time. Obviously, an entrepreneur, and because you founded Virginutty, which
Mhm.
is a sustainable coconut-based skincare brand. But if you'd like to just kind of introduce yourself and give us a little bit more insight into who you are and what you do.
Yeah, okay, sure. So my name is Melissa Legarda, and I'm the founder of Virginutty, which is a sustainable coconut oil skincare brand. And we source our coconut oil exclusively from the Philippines. So I am Filipino by ethnicity and heritage, although I grew up in London
Mhm.
and born and raised in London. And throughout my career, well, okay, so I graduated from Goldsmiths College in London. And during that time, I kind of never really thought about my identity too deeply. But after that point, after graduating, I realized there was a whole culture out there that I hadn't explored for myself. So I went out kind of in search of my roots. Ended up getting a job in Philippine government working for a film festival. So it was a media office. And during my time off, I would spend time traveling around the islands and just exploring, seeing what's out there. I remember maybe it was my first month in the country, and I went to the local drugstore to try and find just basic toiletries, moisturizer, toothpaste, that sort of thing. I couldn't find a single moisturizer that didn't have a skin whitening agent in it. And that's something that really concerned me. Obviously I see the billboards around is mostly lighter skinned
Yeah.
Filipino models or Western models or models from other Southeast Asian countries that have lighter skin. And I coming from London or from the West where everyone's, hyped about trying to get darker skin and, melanin is celebrated, it felt really jarring for me to see that, lighter skinned mentality is still going on in what's a predominantly darker skinned country. So I went to a couple of different drugstores, the equivalent of Boots, Superdrug, but literally nothing without skin whitening agent in it. And the only thing they had was in the natural aisle, which was a little jar of cold pressed coconut oil. So I bought that. And I'd kind of heard about it before, but I never really used it, although I know a lot of my relatives did. And then after about a month, I found myself using it for absolutely everything. I fell down this complete coconut oil spiral, found this amazing book. And from there, I got inspired to maybe start something. And I thought coconut oil was a bit of a trend in the UK for food and cooking, but I hadn't really seen it in the beauty market so much. So from that point, I started researching different coconut farms to work with. I ended up finding this amazing farm I really loved, and they have fair trade producers, sustainable initiatives, upcycling and sustainable agricultural practices. And they have a lot of natural disaster prevention schemes for their farmers because the Philippines is in a high natural disaster area. We're always being hit by typhoons, storms, really devastating stuff. It was great to see that the producers had this kind of protection for their workers. They produced the highest quality coconut oil I'd ever seen. So good that their manufacturing practices were top secret. And I decided that these were the guys I wanted to work with. So I met the farmers. They took me to one of their mom and pop farms. So they work with they work with independent farms around the country to get them to a certain standard of production, get them using sustainable farming practices, and to make sure they're 100% organic and using natural fertilizers and that sort of thing. So that was I think that was 2016 at that point. So I came back to London in 2017, and then I started working with the Prince's Trust, if you know about them. So the Prince's Trust help young entrepreneurs kind of get set up and teach them about things like business taxes and marketing and, spreadsheets and cash flows and sales forecasts, all things that I just had no idea about. And I feel like often that's how entrepreneurship develops. You just have an idea and you run with it and you go blindly. You go blindly into it. And then you're like, oh, wait, cosmetic laws. Oh, wait, there's like legalities around this stuff. So that was a whole deep dive. That was a whole other kind of learning curve, period of growth. So many snafus. Basically just had to learn about so many different things involving legalities, shipping, cosmetic rights, how the UK differs from Europe, and even things like labeling cosmetics if you can't claim certain benefits because otherwise it turns into a pharmaceutical, and then you're liable for that. So it was just a lot of things. And I think I was about 23 at the time. So I didn't, looking back now, I wouldn't have done it any other way, but now I've learned so much more. And I would definitely, if I had another business, approach it from a completely different angle. And as a creative, first and foremost, you know, journalistic background and content creation background, I think that having to develop my number skills, which were not the best, really has been another learning curve, I think. And just, you know, I think just understanding the ins and outs of the retail industry and being a product-based business, you know, I feel a pull towards the marketing because I had a very clear vision about what I wanted the brand to be. I wanted to elevate perceptions of the minority, elevate perceptions of Southeast Asian goods and produce and product, and place it at a premium level rather than just, you know, the things that people see or break through prejudice and stereotype. And specifically, my vision for the marketing was to elevate the melanated, or, you know, the darker skinned, what we call the morena, you know, brown skinned Filipina, rather than the chinita, which is the lighter skinned or, for example, Chinese strain of Philippine descendant. I've always had that vision, and that marketing and that branding is what's got us a lot of traction, I think, because it is memorable and because people are drawn to it, and a lot of specifically urban POC or European people of color or mixed race individuals have messaged us, you know, saying that they feel that the brand is super relatable, and it's the first time they've actually seen themselves reflected in marketing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do agree with that. And I think when I did go on your page and like just reviewing your branding, your storytelling, which we'll speak on a little bit later on, I did relate with that. Even as someone as person of color, I could see that through your branding, through the storytelling, through the pictures, through the videos, you were like celebrating these individuals, but you also had the element of your product in there as well. And it was really great. You know, it's just celebrating skin in every shade and every color. And I really did appreciate and resonate with that. You know, going back to skin as well, and you mentioned something about colorism. And you mentioned sort of like the use of skin lightening products or ingredients in a majority of the products that you found in the Philippines. And someone of Nigerian origin, skin lightening or bleaching, that's the term that they would use. It was something that was quite prominent many years ago. And in some ways, you know, the lighter skin is still very much celebrated, not only in Nigerian culture, but in just African, West African, across the world, you know. And I think it's really fantastic that obviously it's something you're very passionate about, celebrating all shades, including the darker shades, even within the Philippines. And yeah, similar to what you've said in terms of starting up a business. I mean, anyone who's listening to this, I'm sure they would have started either quite young or middle-aged, and you know, you can't know everything in the beginning. And I think it's really great that the Princess Trust and other agencies offer that advice. And in some way it also comes with experience as well, like you said, in terms of like the laws and shipping and packaging and branding. A lot of it is just with experience as well, but it's really key to try and seek advice as early on as you can, especially when you're launching a business or a product. And you've kind of touched a little bit on this, but I wanted to ask about the causes that you champion as a brand, and why you're so passionate about them.
It really blossomed just out of a passion for the conscious consumer, and I think now the movement is so strong and consumers are questioning brands more than ever, especially in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, it's not just dismantling what products they use and who's being exploited in the product chain, but it's also going into who are the people sitting on your board and who's making these decisions and who's signing off on these, and is that inclusive and diverse and representative. I think all of this stemmed from a passion to just be part of the change. And my belief is that now people are shopping more with their hearts than their wallets. And brand who cares, who truly authentically cares, is a brand that's going to be recognized by a discerning customer. And it's important to stay agile, stay adaptable, stay ready to change. And I think that's an edge that smaller independent brands like us have over, big corporations who might be fixed in their ways. And Virginutty's slogan has always been empower the minority, empower the coconut. And the minority doesn't necessarily mean in terms of skin color, but it also means, the underdog, small independent brand that's pushing to make change locally or in their local community. And empower the coconut doesn't only mean empowering coconuts from a certain location, i.e. the Philippines. It means what I hope to be a metaphor for natural produce and ingredients in general. And I really hope that, I know a lot of people are adopting natural ingredients now, especially the larger store-bought or drugstore products, but a lot of them are not transparent with their marketing. A lot of them tout 100% natural ingredients, but actually it still contains aqua, parfum, silicone, dioxides. All of these are toxic ingredients that are also somewhat carcinogenic, and it's stressful as a consumer to still be going into drugstores and picking up a product that you think is innocent or that has a cruelty-free label slapped on it, but actually it still has detrimental effects to the skin. It just worries me as a consumer that, women use so many different products every day, and if we're compounding all these different chemicals building up on our skin, in our skin ingests everything we put on it. Why wouldn't you opt for a natural solution that doesn't have these detrimental effects? And so that was a big part of Virginutty's ethos when I developed the staple range, which was essentially just cold pressed raw organic coconut oil, which hadn't been heat treated, which hadn't been added, which hadn't had stabilizers added or preservatives or an artificial parfum or fragrance, which legally brands don't have to disclose. It was literally, if you are what you eat, then why would you not put what you eat on your skin if that's possible?
Yeah.
So when we launched, it was literally just one ingredient skincare, and a lot of people felt, the people who understood it really understood the concept, and others who didn't were just a little bit perplexed by the simplicity of it. So we now have a CBD skincare range, which is cannabidiol blended with coconut oil. And we have a coconut coffee glow range, and now we're diversifying into candles, coconut soy wax candles. Yes, to use our waste coconut oil and repurpose it for more ritual, more wellness focused products. But the main range essentially was not only educational in, makeup melt, hair balm, skin drink. It's very clear that you can use it on your hair, for your skin, or to remove your makeup. And it has completely different benefits depending on where you put it. But also it was a cosmetic requirement for the UK and EU to differentiate what a product is used for. So actually the legality surrounding cosmetics actually helped us develop this range and kind of make it clear what it was for. And I think since then, because it's such a chicken and egg trying to grow, especially as a sole founder and do all the things yourself and all the moving parts. And as I said before, as a creative, I'm always drawn to the marketing more than the numbers. It can be hard not to get seduced by the marketing, but actually now that we're finally in a place where we're able to diversify and experiment with new avenues, it's opened up a much more enriching exploration, for me at least, of potential natural or naturally derived products that can actually positively impact people's lives.
Amazing. And it's really great to kind of hear sort of the ethos behind the brand is very, very important for me as as a customer, just me as a person in general, I'm just really interested in why people are starting and what is driving them as a business, as an initiative, and the impact that they want to make. Going back to sort of ingredients as well, for someone like me, I have allergies. So I learned very early on that I couldn't just put anything in my hair or on my skin. And it's something that I always try my best to use natural based products, perhaps not 100% natural, but I'm very particular about what I put on my skin. Fantastic. And you touched a lot on the things that a brand needs to consider, especially when creating a product. You spoke about sort of the benefits of your ingredients. You spoke about the multi-purpose use of your ingredients as well. But is there anything else that you would like to kind of advise anyone listening to this on when they're creating a collection? So you have a collection of products. What are the things you would consider that you need to consider when creating a product like yours?
Firstly, I think this answer is so loaded, I think, but firstly, what problem are you solving, and how are you solving that problem in a way that's fresh or distinctive or exciting or unique to what's come before you? So I know that, for example, we have a lot of competitors in the natural ingredient and coconut oil skincare industry, but to my knowledge, none of them come from the place that they're selling the coconut oil from. They don't have the unique vision that drove our brand specifically forward. And I think it's the passion you bring to an idea. How are you going to market that problem solving? Your brand is the full ecosystem of your business. It's what the rest of the world sees. And it's about making sure that your vision for your brand aligns with how other people perceive it. I think it's also important just to be passionate about it, in the sense that when you're starting a brand, it's easy to be seduced by this idea of, I'm going to run a business, it's going to be amazing, I'm going to be this entrepreneur that looks fly every day and steps out of my Lambo, and my iPad's always pinging and I've got a latte in my hand every morning. But actually what entrepreneurship is being at your laptop 24/7 and looking at your dwindling bank balance and wondering if you've actually got the chops to go on if no one believes in your idea. When you're building a brand, it's really easy to look at the media and look at the seductive headlines again with, Airbnb skyrockets in shares, or Uber turns over X million in first quarter, and all these things. And it's just not how day-to-day local business operates. And you have no idea how many years someone's spent trying and failing before something gets off the ground. And it's all about celebrating the small wins. And it's also about understanding that a brand is an organic, fluid, adaptable thing. It's not fixed. Every 10 years, even giants like Pepsi, Coke, Sprite, they undergo a radical rebrand, not just with the visuals and their logos, but also what is their intent now, what is their ethos. If you look at if you look at a leading multinational company like Nike, for example, they've just exploded into so many different areas, and you never know how your brand is going to be picked up by different tribes or different communities. There's an amazing book I've read called Brand Hijack, which talks about how blue collar workers used Doc Martens, which were then picked up by the punk rock movement, and then became this synonymous, a shoe synonymous with rebellion and disruption. Another thing, that Apple products were liked by a very select few computer programmers, and then once it hit the hipster scene, it suddenly blew up mainstream on a really large scale. And I think it's just interesting about this idea of tribe and community, and how having a loyal few can really funnel you into something much bigger than you'd expected. So I think just bearing in mind and not being afraid to start, even if it's not perfect. That's true. The quest of perfection is something that I think creatives struggle with, but also, when you're an entrepreneur working on a shoestring budget, you have to get so resourceful and you have to get so creative. And I mean creative not just in the artistic and visual sense, but creative in terms of critical thinking and being resourceful and adapting and and finding new ways to problem solve that you would never normally think of.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Like I picked up so much from sort of the things that you really need to look at in terms of creativity, in terms of just the drive, looking at what other brands have done and how their stories, how they have managed to change and grow. And in some cases, they've had to rebrand in their journey in each collection that they have put out. Although their story is still the same, they've always tried to remain relevant and move with the times. And I think that's something that everybody's had to do in this time, and people have had to look at their current services or their current products and decide, okay, what is most relevant for the time we're in? How are we going to be serving our customer best? So going back to sort of your brand presence and kind of making a difference through your brand presence, and you've kind of touched on this and said that you're very, very interested in the marketing, in the creative side of your business. And I was going to actually ask you about your brand storytelling and why it was so important for you to portray the stories of various individuals. And I think you've kind of touched on that. But if you want to just expand in any other way, because I read one of your blog posts and you were telling the stories of the Kalanga women. I mean, you have the Virginutty creative sessions. So why is it so important for you to portray the stories of various individuals?
I think for me, as a person, everything I do is about connection. That is connecting with myself, connecting with my culture, which is what propelled me to start the business in the first place. Connection with other people, connection with like-minded creatives such as yourself. Everything I do probably stems from some deeper place to connect and find meaning in relationships. And a large part of starting Virginutty was less about starting a brand and definitely about problem solving, but also about fostering a meaningful connection and creating a community. And I think communities are so important. Local communities are so important. Global communities are so important. But to truly create a meaningful brand or a project that's actually going to impact people, it's so important to build a community. And one of the best ways to do that is through storytelling, because every story that is shared and elevated is a chance for someone else to see it and connect with it and find meaning and relate to what someone is saying. And as a brand, we've got this platform to do good and spotlight those stories and connect people together. And I think it's just important to keep celebrating and to keep empowering others through these connections. So, for example, one of our most recent collaborations was for World Afro Day a couple of weeks ago in September. And, I grew up with amazing Black friends, influenced by Black music. Everything we do is shaped by the legacy of Black people and artists and pioneers and change makers that are just so rarely celebrated. And so days like that, where we have a chance to connect and elevate the stories and spotlight people and just open up a new perspective to an audience who may have never heard the term 4C hair, or who may have never heard about having to, iron out kinks or just do things that, even the vocabulary around Afro hair is not something that the majority of Western audiences would even encounter. And for me, it's such a learning piece. It's a chance to educate ourselves. It's a chance to educate others. And it's just a chance to hear stories from other people. So it's things like that. And that gives us a chance to collaborate with so many more people. It gives us a chance to hear somewhat familiar stories from other cultures. Like you said yourself, with a Nigerian background, I know that Nigeria is #1 in the world for skin whitening products, swiftly followed by the Philippines and India. So those cultures all share a deep connection with, breaking through that colonial standard of beauty and reclaiming being dark-skinned or not looking like a certain stereotype. So storytelling to me as a creative is so important, especially as we live in the social media world where everything is visual storytelling. And I think it's helped grow our brand because it brings value to other people. And we're not necessarily trying to shoehorn our products into every story. You know, if we have the resource to create something meaningful, then we'll do it. Again, it's the community focus rather than often the sales focus, which I suppose is my biggest downfall as an entrepreneur, just like not being focused on the sales. But to each their own. And I mean, that's why as an entrepreneur, it's about understanding where you outsource, where you pivot. If you're not great at something, you outsource that to someone who is. And just recognizing what your capabilities are, where your interests are, and giving other people a chance when you know you won't be able to deliver.
Like fantastic. I fully agree with you in terms of, I'm also a small business owner. I just started up for just about a year now, and obviously coming from a very creative background, I tend to focus on the creative a lot, and in terms of the sales and the finances is something that I'm also growing. And I found that the use of storytelling has really helped. My background in knowing how to storytell has really helped me in terms of my business, in terms of connecting with people, in terms of the initiatives that I want to drive as a business and the impact that I want to make as a business. So to anyone who's listening to this and, you know, thinking about starting a business or already in business, I think it's really important to look at how you are telling the story of your brand, of initiatives, or of things you're very passionate about. And like what you've mentioned about outsourcing, I think is really important to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and if perhaps you're stronger in the financials, in the sales side of things, then it's important to also bring on or outsource to somebody who is more creative, who can help you in that section, in that sector, if that's something you want to drive as a business, your storytelling. So do you have any advice for anyone who wants to stay true to their ethos and their brand? Because I know in this time it can be very easy to follow the trends in order for you to push sales. Do you have any advice in this?
As I mentioned earlier with conscious consumers, I think again, it's transparency and honesty that are just so important for a brand to put out. And that's why, you know, everything a brand says, take with a pinch of salt, because often there's an agenda there. And say for us, we make it a point to always inform people to do their own research, not take our word as gospel. We're very open about the idea of, you know, coconut oil does not work as a natural solution for everybody. Some people react badly to it. Some people can't use it on their skin, but they can use it in their hair and vice versa. You know, we're not here to preach. We're not here to do anything but offer a solution to people who need it and who respond well to it. And I think a lot of brands take this holier than thou approach and position themselves as the ultimate thought leader without really considering that humans are not one homogeneous lump, and a target demographic is not a homogeneous lump. You know, I went to a talk recently, and on the screen there was a picture of Donald Trump on the right, and I think Joe Biden on the left, and you know, and at the bottom it said male, Caucasian, 50 to 60-year-old, has a house in the suburbs, loves golfing. And the question was, two men, same demographic, completely different as human beings. And it drives home the fact that even if people share the same age, location, race, they're still completely different people with completely different beliefs and interests. Again, when you're talking about building a brand, it's about catering to the individuals and the communities that share the same values as your brand, and not trying to pander to absolutely everyone. And understanding that your niche is what keeps you ticking as a brand. And when you try to appeal to everyone and, you know, I'm the next Facebook, it almost never goes that way, because even Facebook started out as a very niche little hot or not app for university and blossomed into this beast. So it is about just understanding your values as a brand and hoping that the right people will be attracted to you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you in terms of you know, knowing who you are, who your audience is, who you're called to who you're called to impact as a business, as an individual, as a creative. I think that's very, very important. And this is something that I actually discussed with our last podcast guest, and she was speaking about, standing out in a saturated market, which, as a business, there's always going to be a competitor. But if you know who you're called to, if you know who, the audience that you're called to provide services or whatever it is, then you're able to kind of just tailor your messages, your brand, and everything to that, and block out sort of the competition, block out all the comparisons and stuff, and just stay focused to who you are as a brand and to your ethos. Fantastic. And let's talk a little bit about the growth of a business. So have you ever felt the pressure to quickly introduce products into your range? If you see that this other brand is, they've done, for instance, you're going to bring out candles, like 6 months down the line, they've done candles, they've done this, they've done that. Have you ever felt pressure at all?
I have felt pressure, but the worst, I think it was Shakespeare who once said comparison is the root of all evil. That's or right. Something like that. And was it in Othello? I can't remember, but shout out to Shakespeare for saying something like that. And one of the best pieces of advice my friend gave me, who is also she's a singer-songwriter, she always says, stay in your lane and don't compare yourself to anyone else. Mm-hmm. And that is probably so applicable as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. You can look and you can adapt and you can innovate and build on a great idea. But if you're going to constantly compare journeys and compare product ranges and collections and success, then it's going to be very, very difficult to truly establish something meaningful if you're always looking at the competition.
That's right.
It's also the quickest way to burn out, to almost, when you have so much doubt, you almost convince yourself that your idea is not worth taking forward, or that you are moving too slowly, or that your idea isn't good enough just because it hasn't had the same opportunities or luck or happenstances that other people have. And again, behind closed doors, you have no idea if someone's hustled for 15 years to get where they are, or if, a family relative happens to have a connection that put in a good word and boom, next thing you know, they've blown up. Mm-hmm. So it's really just about, for me, it's been about focusing on that core ethos and remembering why I started something. Everything comes back to the why, and making sure that everything you do is aligned with that. And I have definitely felt the pressure, but again, as a growing brand, as a sole founder who's been kind of doing everything as a side hustle for the past couple of years until this point, it's really just about self-acceptance and embracing the place you're at and having faith in the journey ahead and knowing that you're going to continue to grow at the pace that you need to grow at.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I picked up so much from that in terms of comparison, and definitely burnout is very, very real. So just take things at your own pace and believe in yourself. Like, that's something else that I picked up in what you've just said. Like, believe in your products, and if it means that you still have to push your one collection for the next 6 months or for the next year, that's fine, as long as you are providing the impact, providing the service that you wanted to originally. That's important, rather than looking at other people and saying, oh, they brought out like 5 different shades of this or this and this and that, so I should be doing that. Nah. So let's talk about the current pandemic and thriving as a business, surviving as a business in this current time. It has been unprecedented, like everyone has been saying. How have you managed to thrive in this weird time and economic uncertainty?
The pandemic. I think that I was saying to a friend earlier that every move we make is now underscored by anxiety. Every plan we make for the future now has an asterisk next to it. As a brand, Virginutty makes the majority of its income from pop-up stores or markets. And because markets and pop-ups have been cancelled this year with the
Mm.
lockdown, it's just been very, very tough financially, cash flow wise. So we've really focused on offering meaningful content more than anything, and driving up our e-commerce sales, and just finding new ways to explore and storytell and remind people that we're still around. So since over lockdown, market stores and pop-ups were no longer a thing. A lot of the physical retailers we were stocked with actually closed their doors. We've had to focus much more on e-commerce sales and driving traffic to our own website. And I think it's been a good time just to sit back and, for me, I guess, as a brand owner and a business owner, to reflect on where we want to go and to remind myself of the why. And I know at the beginning of the lockdown, there was some umming and ahhing in marketing around whether it was insensitive to run ads at this time, push products. And digital products like online courses, e-learning, that sort of thing really blew up. But I think there was some tension around whether it was the right time to sell. And I know that there were more eyeballs than ever on screens because people have nothing else to do, but it felt uncomfortable and directly in conflict with our ethos to be running ads at such a high time of anxiety. So we personally didn't do that, but I know that many other brands and my friends who are brand owners had a lot of success with reminding people to shop independent and support people if they had extra disposable income, you know, if they hadn't been furloughed or lost their job, to remember to keep supporting in ways that they could. And again, off the back of the BLM movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, I know there was a huge boom in supporting minority owned and POC owned businesses, product-based ones especially. So that was something really great to have come out of this time, even though it was underscored by the pandemic.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, initially, you know, April, May was really a weird time. And understandably, I think the decision to step back and kind of figure out what's going on, I think that's like a great decision for everyone, really. But on hindsight, but looking back, I think it's also important to look forward as well. Yeah, during the beginning of the pandemic, it was a really weird time, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of brands decided to take a step back. But I think now is the time we have learned from what has gone on, and we know that it's still going to continue, unfortunately, the restrictions, and it's a time for innovation, it's a time to kind of decide where you want to be as a brand and how you want to, you know, provide service, how you want to push your products, how you want to show up as a brand, as a creative, as a business owner, whoever you are. And thriving, yes, I mean, this time has really helped a lot of movements in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement, in terms of supporting local businesses. And I think this is such a great thing to come out of such an uncertain and such a high time of high anxiety. And I do hope that the support for local businesses, for small businesses, for justice, for the Black Lives movement still continues on when things begin to feel a lot better and a lot relaxed. So I just want to ask you just two more questions before we round up. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, a creative, what drives you and what motivates you, especially in this time, the time that we're in just now?
Again, I think that sense of connection drives me, wanting to make an impact or wanting to better someone's life, whether that is through our product or whether that's through content, or just quietly reminding people that it's okay not to be okay, that it's okay to not have everything in place right now. As creatives, or, you know, in the creative world, it's a really tough time for artists, musicians, people in the entertainment industry, anyone in events, anyone who you know, thrived off an environment that was reliant on people and activity. It's very jarring to just be still and be alone for once. But as you said, especially the period of April and May, even though it was an anxious time, it was so welcome to just sit and disconnect. And for the first time, the world kind of slowed down and quieted. nature proliferated, and so many things happened that are silver linings to the entire year. Yeah, I think just looking towards the future, and again addressing your why, and looking at where you're at and where you can comfortably go is important. And it's kind of a lifeline in these times when you're living day to day, but having the option to consider future possibilities and keep chasing those dreams, and having the time and energy to lay the groundwork for them now is really special. And it's just about remembering everyone's going through the exact same thing.
Exactly. Thank you. Everyone is going through the exact same thing, and like, just don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, work hard, yeah, set goals, but just don't put too much pressure on yourself. That is what I would also say in terms of motivation in this time. And it's really important to take breaks as well. I know that it's coming up to Christmas time, and for businesses, this is when a lot of us make quite a lot of income, a lot of profit. But just work hard, but also, take time to, for self-care. So what advice do you have for individuals who are looking to grow in a niche industry? So any words that you may have? You've provided a lot of insight, but yeah.
I think it all starts with, again, why. And it's take your time to do research. Market testing is so important. And it's one of the things I really undervalued when the Prince's Trust give you a mentor when you enroll on their course. And I would listen to my mentor, and he'd stress the importance of market testing. I'd be like, no, I know what people want. And in hindsight, market testing was so valuable. We did pop-ups around Brixton, around Camden, just talking to people and understanding what they wanted and what was important to them. And just talking to people is one of the most important things you can do, because as an entrepreneur or as a creative, you get so swept up in the idea and the perfection of it, and falling in love with your own idea is important. But then in business, you have to be able to distinguish your personal feelings from what is simply business. So I think for anyone looking to start something now, remember the why, explore all avenues, don't be afraid to start, because something's never going to be perfect. And trust that everything you need are things that you already have.
Thank you. That's great. Like, thank you very much. I really do agree. Everything that you need, you already have. And just look within you. And you provided some really great advice in terms of mentorship, in terms of talking to people. You can really get caught up in your idea, like you said, in perfecting what you're about to release or a product that you're trying to improve. But it's really important, the market research, really going back to who your audience is. This is something that we've said throughout this interview, your audience, who you're called to, who you want to impact. So doing your market research and seeing how you can provide great service, customer service, how you can impact them, that's really key. And in terms of mentorship at the moment, like, do you currently have a mentor? How is that for you just now?
Yes. So I work with an amazing mentor who, again, the Prince's Trust put me in touch with, and he's been my mentor for about 2 years now. He's the director of a modeling agency, and for the first time, having a creative mentor has completely changed how I approach my business. And for the first time, I feel like I have a mentor that really understands me, because a lot of the mentors I've had in the past were either very finance heavy or involved in business development and the more corporate side of industry, whereas having someone involved in the arts who understands where I'm coming from but has scaled their business into a booming global company is just so invaluable. And I'm grateful not only to the Prince's Trust for providing that connection, but I'm so grateful to my mentor for he's just gone above and beyond to help me. He's helped organize a branding workshop for me, which he hosted. He was running around making us cups of tea, being the ear to lean on whenever I need to call him up and ask for advice. And just, he's always forwarding me articles that are relevant or dropping me funny emails. And having someone who you can bounce ideas off and trust that they'll be honest, but in a constructive way that always have your best interests at heart,
it's really important.
it's really invaluable. And I really recommend that anyone looking to start a business or a brand shadow someone or find a mentor who can take them safely and comfortably to that next level.
Thank you for that advice. Yeah, fully agree. Mentorship has really helped me. It's really helped me in my journey, in my professional career, in my creativity, as well as my small business as well. So it's an invaluable advice, I would say. If you are thinking of starting, definitely do your market research, number one. Number two, get a mentor. So final question, what is next for you and for Virginutty?
Big question. I have so many hopes and dreams for Virginutty. You know, one day I would love to set up our own coconut farm in the Philippine Islands, that sort of thing. But for now, I think I would like to eventually diversify our product range, starting with the candle range I mentioned.
And when's that going to be out?
Well, we're in talks now, and hopefully we're in testing right now, but hopefully going to launch a limited collection before Christmas.
Fantastic.
And after that, so we want to launch 3 scents, all inspired by different provinces and traditions of Philippine culture. And hopefully from then expand. And I think we just want to keep growing and developing new business relationships as well with different stockists. Yeah. One of the biggest things that was holding us back, I think, from approaching more stockists and retailers was the fact that our skincare range is so niche and is so simple. But now that we're diversifying, or in a place where we can comfortably start diversifying, hopefully it opens a lot of new doors for us, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really great. And from everything that I'm hearing is just growth, basically a lot of growth in terms of products, in terms of relationships as well. And I really do wish you all the best. In terms of you as well as a business owner, what is next for you, separate from Virginutty? Sorry, I'm being a bit nosy.
As a business owner, well, apart from Virginutty, I also have a social media strategy and content production studio called MLKD Creative.
Wow.
And we work with brands and music artists looking to scale up on social and develop more meaningful connections with people. So I take on Virginutty as a client sometimes through that, and it allows me to kind of step away and look more objectively at the brand. And actually running a product-based business myself has really helped me help other product-based businesses or service-based businesses tell their story in a more meaningful way. So being able to see both sides of the coin has really, I suppose, just broadened my understanding of what people respond to on social media or online, and what kind of falls down depending on the niche. I think for me, I just want to keep, I want to get better about self-care, personal development. It can be so easy to just sit there, Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, and forget to actually switch off. And, now that the pandemic has happened, our daily existence looks a lot different to what it was. And it's just about creating time to make little rituals and make space for yourself, and accept that you're not going to have guns blazing all the time. But then when you do have these runs of productivity, celebrate them. Just keep connecting with others like yourself who are doing so much impact, on a local and a global scale. And
wow, thank you.
Just keep doing that, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And it was really great to kind of hear sort of what's next for you. And it's really fantastic to hear that you also have another initiative that you're working on apart from your business. It's really fantastic to hear about self-care, very, very important in this time. Just wishing you and Virginutty all the best. So finally, how can our listeners, anyone who connects with Creativesinfocus, connect with you as an individual and as a business as well?
If people would like to follow the Virginutty journey, they can find us on Instagram at Virginutty, Virginutty. Also at virginutty.co.uk. and I can offer a special 15% discount if they type in Creativesinfocus.
You hear that, guys? Go out and buy from Virginutty. You get a special code. Thank you so much, Melissa. It's been a really great pleasure speaking to you and hearing your story. I'm looking forward to seeing you thriving and looking forward to the impact that you will continue to make as a business and as an individual.
Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and for sticking to Creatives in Focus for a whole year. Your support has been incredible, and you can continue to support us by subscribing to the podcast, by sharing, liking our posts. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. This would be amazing and would mean so much to me. As always, you can connect with us through our socials on Instagram at Creatives in Focus, on Twitter at Creatives in Focus. If you have any suggestions for topics, we are rounding up guests for 2021. Just let us know. Feel free to email us at creativesinfocus@gmail.com or just send us a DM on Instagram. Until next time, influence change and create for impact.